And we're back. After a short break, but I'm sure it was a very meaningful break. And you are excited and ready to hear from our next speakers because they are going to tell us about the Retail CBDC in Hong Kong, which are the lessons that we learned from the HKD pilot program. I would like to introduce our moderator first, George Chou, Chief Finance Officer, Fintech Facilitation Officer at Hong Kong Monetary Authority, in conversation with Gilbert Lee, Head of Strategy and Corporate Development and Chief of Staff at Hang Seng Bank, Ashok Venkateswaran, excuse my pronunciation if it's not perfect, APAC, Head of Digital Assets and Blockchain at Mastercard, Monita Leung, she is the Chief Executive Officer, Digital Ventures at HKD, Nischint Sanghavi, Head of Digital Currencies, Asia Pacific at Visa, and Flora Leung, Executive General Manager at Head of Retail, Banking and Wealth Management at ICBC Asia. Please welcome them on stage.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. First of all, a warm welcome to all of you to attend this Hong Kong FinTech Week 2023 and this panel discussion about e-HKD. Very excited to have our 5 honorable guests on the stage here with me today in this session. To start, I think the HKMA has always valued public and private collaboration, which is why we invited our industry partners to join the HKMA Retail CBDC journey, as well as to examine the use case, the implementation, and design issues about e-HKD. So I would like to once again thank the industry participants to their support and your tireless contribution. Thank you so much. So following the commencement of the HKD pilot program in May this year, 16 selected firms from the financial, payment, as well as technology sectors conducted 14 pilot test cases under the Phase 1 pilot program, taking deep dives into some potential domestic and retail use cases and across 6 different categories. So Phase 1 of the e-Hong Kong dollar pilot program was completed recently, and the HKMA in fact has just issued a report 4 days ago to discuss our overall assessment as well as the way forward. So these pilots showed that the HKD may add some unique values to the HKD and the payment ecosystem in Hong Kong, which are programmability, tokenizations, and atomic settlement. So I think it's time to let me hand over the stage to our honorable guests. So I just mentioned programmability is one of the key areas observed where e-HKD can add value to. So Gilbert and Ashok, may I tap your view as the pilot you were involved, actually use the programmability as a key component. So could you share your views on how programmability can shape the future of payments? Maybe I will hand over to Gilbert first.
Of course.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you, George. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I was in a rush to this panel, and I actually haven't had lunch yet, and I didn't have breakfast. and then I feel very hungry. But and my secretary knows about that, and she acted as always very much like a parent, and gave me a lecture on this is very bad for your health. This is gonna affect your performance on stage. Blah 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 blah. And then she handed me a $100 note and ordered me to buy a sandwich and buy a cup of coffee. Buy a sandwich and buy a cup of coffee. Obviously, I didn't do that. Otherwise, you wouldn't see this $100 note anymore. But I'm going to further upset her because I actually plan to use this $100 note with my other money, of course, to buy a glass of Chardonnay after this panel. And of course, I will invite George and every one of you to go with me. This will really upset my secretary. But the reason why I would upset her is that because she cannot program these $100 notes. She has no control on how I will spend it and when I will spend it. Imagine if she can program these $100 notes and say, you can only buy sandwich before 2 p.m. Otherwise, it will disappear. Go back to my wallet. She would not feel upset, and I would therefore definitely buy that particular sandwich. And that is exactly what Hang Seng Bank has tested in our pilot programs. So in our pilot programs, we have actually created a private blockchain for token issuance. And number two, we have a hypothetical e-HKD wallet to facilitate and manage the tokens. So the two use cases we produced are number one, merchant reward program, and number two, government grant disbursement. For merchant reward program, merchant can give away incentive money, like $100 Hong Kong, again, to potential customers. And the potential customers can only buy a coffee, not alcohol, not soft drink, not juice, at that particular outlet, the particular coffee shop, not at a wine bar, not at a convenience store. And they have to spend that incentive money this week, not next week, not next year. So all these can be programmed into that hypothetical e-HKD money. So the obvious benefits to the merchants is very easy, just a few clicks away they can issue the incentive money. They do not need to print, they do not need to disseminate. Users are very seamless. They have their voucher on their wallet. They do not need to carry the physical paper. They do not need to read the terms and conditions, which will help digitize SME payments. Similarly, the second use case is government fund disbursement. So now the government and public organization can send subsidies money to a certain industry, for example. They can choose which industry, technology industry, for example, but not oil and gas, not tobacco. They can choose where, for example, only for companies in the cyberport, not those in Wan Chai or Central. Or they can also designate the usage for salary payment only. The owners can't use the subsidies to trade in the stock market, for example. So obvious benefits, again, we can mitigate the risk of misuse and fraudulent use. The government can very easily trace the effectiveness of the subsidies, where they go, where they are being used, etc., etc. So Hang Seng has completed in September and October these experiments. We have involved over 150 individuals, 7 merchants, a public organization, and over 500 transactions, including our long-term partner, Cyberport and CUHK. 80% of the individuals are satisfied with the experience, and they agree that programmability is the unique and distinguished features of e-HKD. All of the merchants find e-HKD beneficial to their business, and they will they believe e-HKD will digitize the payment collection processes. So Hang Seng Bank believes that programmability will drive innovation and expedite the development of digital economy. George.
Thank you, Gilbert. Thank you for your sharing. Could someone please just prepare a sandwich and a cup of coffee at the back right after the panel? It's on me, okay?
Thank you, George. Use HKD.
Yeah, I will buy now, pay later using electronic money.
Thank you.
How about you, Ashok? What do you think? How could programmability help to shape our future payments? Over to you.
Thank you. Gilbert, if your admin's giving out $100, it's great. I'm going to come work for you too. Where we kind of see it is that programmability is really important as a form of trust for this new digital world. If you think about it, like you can actually use programmability to wrap regulations around these tokens. You can use programmability for the bank to ensure automation of some of these flows, so you don't have to have so many manual touch points. And finally, for the customer can have guarantees that the items that they ordered online or digitally is what they're going to receive. So programmability kind of helps out across the board, you know, the regulators, the banks, the individual, and that's what we feel is very important. Now, we tested that out in our project that we did for the HKD pilot, where we had a merchant buy a luxury watch from an unknown source. Now, I live in Asia. There's a lot of gray market Rolexes flying around these days. Tough to get one. So if you don't have that trust with the counterparty of where you're actually getting the goods, the programmability aspect, you're able to use that to guarantee that the Rolex that the merchant ordered is actually truly a Rolex. And we tested that with an NFT, which has an NFT certificate to guarantee the authenticity of the actual good, right? And then once everybody was satisfied, but the actual good was true and stated what it was, then only was the payment made to between the buyer and seller, right? Now, for us, even though we tested this with e-HKD, the underlying asset could be anything. It could be e-HKD, it could be stablecoin, it could be tokenized deposits. Any of those could be used across our platform to showcase the strength of programmability.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your sharing. So definitely tokenization is another key area that e-HKD could add value to. So Monica, I know you are an advocate for tokenization, right? Especially in the space of Web3. So Hong Kong T's pilot actually involved the DVP settlement between e-HKD and real estate token. So with a common goal to develop Hong Kong as a Web3 hub, how do you see that e-HKD could help to develop this area, and what's the challenge that you foresee? Over to you.
All right. Before I get into that exact tokenization, I would like to set the backdrop so that everybody knows what we are doing. I think our project is quite different from the others because we believe at HKT and our consortium partners that to foster the adoption of digital currencies requires a collective effort from various parties in the society in order to create the biggest values to the economy as a whole. Therefore, we put together a consortium approach where our intention is to invite relevant members of different subject matter expertise to make this a pilot use case for us. Now, the use case that we put forward is really about tokenized property-backed secure lending with ring-fence usage, but it sounds very complicated. But I guess I think I can rephrase it in layman terms. Is like a layman can actually tokenize their property, their apartments, and use a fraction of their tokenized assets for collaterals to apply a secure lending, so that they can also set the purpose for the loan, and for the bank, when they disperse the money to this customer, they can actually ring-fence the usage. And in this case, the bank is able to better control and assess the credit risks of these individual customers and to offer a more competitive financing rate, and returns is bringing benefit to the consumers. But I think everybody would think, oh, it's a crazy idea, because it imagines all the legacies with the land registry, and we all know how the government handled the physical deeds. It sounds very remote. But you think if you are adopting a new technology, the DLT, the distributed ledger technologies, all these, if we come with smart contract, which can enforce automatic fulfillment of preset conditions, and all these can be done effectively, efficiently, and in a very short period of time. But I think the point I want to raise, to highlight here, is having all this infrastructure is the power to unleash the liquidity in the market. Now, at present, based on some research, the total assets that is available for tokenizations amounts to 37 trillion. And actually 20% goes to residential. Okay, but the finance home properties ratio versus the total values of properties is only 9%. So imagine if we can provide innovative solutions for secure lending, it is able to facilitate the general mass to unleash the liquidity more easily. And ultimately, it can help the growth of economic growth of Hong Kong. And it's also able to connect us to the virtual assets of the Web3 economy, so to speak, with a set of tokens on the public blockchains and make on-ramp, off-ramp processing easier. So this is a thing that probably a lot of us would think is very remote, but I would say it would happen faster than I'd expected. So this is the kind of initiative that we want to bring to the market. But again, there is a lot of challenge, as you said. There's a lot of challenge to make it practical. I think the first challenge is, now all digital transformations come with, the key problem is to how to work with the legacy systems. But I guess this problem is a matter of how to justify the investment, how to balance between the technology debt and sustainabilities. And the second challenge would be the concerns on cybersecurity and data privacies. But that's why it calls for, George, in forming a well-structured legal and regulatory framework so that to safeguard the benefits of all the stakeholders, including the consumer, the enterprise, and the bank. But I think all these come with a conclusion that as the government has been repeatedly reinforced that it is too early to sort of conclude whether to launch e-Hong Kong dollar. But I would highlight that while we consider to launch e-Hong Kong dollar, we need to take into considerations the various type of digital currencies, say for example, stablecoin and tokenized assets, and I'm thinking Visa and ICBC will talk about it. So we are very proud to participate in this project, and we see a lot of opportunities to bring Hong Kong to a next level of success.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you for your sharing and support to the initiative. I particularly like your point that because I think technology is just evolving too fast. So I think nowadays nobody can just do everything by themselves. So collaboration is the key to success. Thank you so much. So Nischint, tokenized deposit is a very topic nowadays, So how do you see the combination of tokenized deposits and wholesale e-HKD could transform the payment ecosystem? Could you share your mind with us?
Sure, definitely. I think, thanks, George. I think tokenized deposit has become a very hot topic at this point, while it's still very early stage. But I think the project that we did with our partners, Hang Seng Bank and HSBC. This was focused on exploring the potential of tokenized deposit in different use cases. And our focus was on B2B use cases to test the interoperability and atomicity of these payments. So in terms of the use cases that we focused on, the first use case was a property use case. Again, a more simplified version of what Monica was talking about, where we're looking at a property buyer buying a property from a developer directly, and it's a large high-value transfer which involves a lot of transfers, and we're trying to see how tokenized deposits can be used to make these transfers much more seamless. The second use case focused on an acquirer to merchant settlement. So within that today, there are certain issues in terms of how the business processes work and how fast merchants get their payment. So we're trying to explore how tokenized deposit can also be used with an e-HKD to provide merchants faster access and eventually reduce their capital requirements. So while we're doing this, the kind of benefits we've seen so far in this pilot, right? One of them is getting the settlement finality and reduced risk of settlement. So by using smart contracts on a blockchain with an e-HKD simulated, we figured that there is a way to reduce the settlement risk by having atomicity. So at the same time, when the transfers are happening between the two parties, the bank's also able to achieve an atomic settlement. So again, while this is at the pilot stage in a sandbox environment, it can still help to kind of reduce the settlement risk, and reduce the risk of collaterals, and improve the working capital requirements. Another area we've seen which can work very well is improved transparency. So here each party can actually go to the blockchain, see the success and failure of the transaction. Now, while there is transparency on one side, there is obviously the need for privacy, the privacy of the transactions. So this platform that we have built also allows banks to preserve their privacy, where users can only see the success and failure of the transactions, but not the details. So that way, each bank, which is obviously very, very concerned about their own privacy, is able to safeguard their information in their own blockchain. Blockchain is a 24/7, 365, always-on infrastructure. So by using blockchain in this, we also designed our platform to become an always-on infrastructure. And that again provides benefits in terms of, especially for these high-value transfers, where people can use it on weekends, throughout, different time zones. And these are the things we've tested also, where we were able to do different property transfers, different payment transfers at different times in the frame. Programmability, I think, is one thing that you guys also discussed earlier, right? So that's something, again, through the use of smart contracts, we can see how these large value purchases can be automated, can be made into faster settlement processes again within that, right? So it's again, it'll depend on how the banks are able to look at their customer base, see what their customers want, and adapt that programmability aspect on these platforms that we're looking at. I think to close off, I think you can just say that this is the first step of many, right? Like while this is a very hot topic, people are always talking about it, it's still very early. We are very early stage. I would say we are still at the ground level or first level, and we do hope to continue to work on these projects with our partners and also with the support of HKMA. And we're thankful for HKMA for this participation in the pilot, and we hope to continue the work in the future as well.
Thank you so much. Certainly, I think this is still a long way to go, but I think we all do see there are many potential benefits in it. So we all need to deep dive to see how many useful, especially we need to find and investigate some useful use case in order to unlock all the benefits. So thank you very much. So Flora, the last question will be for you. So both Visa's tokenized deposit use case and also ICBC Asia's offline payment solutions showcase the settlement efficiency of e-HKD. So, but could you share with us how can offline payment solutions benefit the general public in cashless payment in Hong Kong in the long term?
Okay, thank you, George. First of all, I think for us in ICBC, we adopt a very simple, we deliberately choose to introduce a very simple e-Hong Kong dollar physical card, but with a new feature, it's a new medium. Here it is, I can show you. So it's like, it's just like a card, but then it's simultaneously we have the balance and the transaction display on the surface of the card. So I think this approach is, we strongly believe that it's a very easily and the quickest way for the public to adopt in terms of the e-Hong Kong dollar concept. So, and we're very happy to learn that during our pilot test, 95% of our participants, like merchants or consumers, are highly satisfied with the settlement efficiency. That is, all the transactions can be completed within 0.2 seconds, which is less than a wink of an eye. So in the long run, I think we want to benefit the majority of the general public, where we were focused on the highly cash concentrated scenarios. So you can think about that, namely we'll be in wet markets, taxis, and also some of the charitable donations that you make at churches or so on. So from our study, I think consumers on one hand can benefit from it because it's a no-brainer to use the card, inside with it, which is a e-Hong Kong dollar. And then even the senior citizens or children can use this. It's very easy and very convenient. And on the other hand, I think the merchants would also be even easier to set up because they only need to install an app rather than a machine. They save all the costs to handle the cash, and more so, I think the settlement efficiency, meaning that they can receive the payment in less than a second into their account, is a big plus to them. So on our side, we are also providing a lot of value-added transactions data, historical data for their analysis, which is also meant to uplift the customer experience. For example, we're talking to some taxi drivers from the industry, and they are really excited and welcome this initiative because it's swift and they can receive the money instantly. And they don't need to go through the hassle anymore with the banks or with the counter branches. And they also gave us a lot of invaluable suggestions as to how to integrate into the taxi meters, getting the payment from other CBDC wallets like ECNY or so on. And more so, I think the security measures that we're looking at can be enhanced. So all in all, I think we are very positive and confident that with the Hong Kong dollar pilot test, we hope to align with more partners to find out more use cases. And we are keen to introduce a brand new experience for our customers to bridge the gap, basically from a different perspective. And hopefully that will be quite a good substitute to physical cash in the transition and near future.
Thank
You
you.
get a Visa card.
Okay, so yeah, all the examples that you just mentioned are all very practical use case. But I think in addition to technical consideration, we also need to kind of do a lot more research and preparation for in terms of other areas such as policy, regulations, and also legal, etc. So as I said, it's a long journey. Okay, so to conclude. While the HKMA has not yet made a decision on whether or when to introduce an e-HKD, but we will remain open-minded in considering all the relevant issues relation to e-HKD carefully, taking into considerations of the industry as well as academia feedback, and also, of course, we need to closely monitor the developments of the other jurisdictions, etc. So. To conclude, again, the HKMA intends to commence phase 2 of the e-HKD pilot program next year. So we will build on the success of phase 1 and consider exploring some new use cases as well as deep dive into some select use case from phase 1. We will also carry on our foundation work in terms of the legal and technology part to make ourselves more prepared for the potential implementations of e-HKD under the rail 1 of the HKMA's free rail approach. I guess some of you may have heard about this in paving the way for the possible implementation of e-HKD in the future. So I think the e-HKD pilot program is a strong testament to to the power of public-private collaboration. We are confident that if we work together hand in hand cohesively, I think the outcomes and insights gained from each pilot would help to enrich our perspective as well as refine our approach for the future possible implementation of e-HKD. So once again, thanks for our 5 honorable guests today. And for the rest of you, I wish you have enjoyed the rest of the FinTech week. And also, of course, have a happy Friday and have a great weekend ahead. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to our speakers for the amazing sharing. As we do